Exposed, the amazing life-changing stories of Titanic's hidden second-class passengers. Clara stood on the dock, the massive Titanic looming before her like a colossal dream. At just 22, she had left behind a humble farming town in Nebraska, where her family struggled to keep the fields alive, barely scraping by while hope seemed to wither in the relentless sun. But here, at the edge of the world, the ship promised a new life, a beacon of luxury and hope, and a chance to break free from the burdens of her past. With a deep breath, she boarded, clutching her small suitcase and the dreams of a brighter tomorrow. Among the second-class passengers, Clara felt a surge of camaraderie. She exchanged glances with a weary war veteran, eyes troubled but flickering with determination. Nearby, a widowed father cradled his 2 children, whispering stories of a new life filled with wonder. Clara's spirit soared alongside theirs. They were voices of resilience, united against the tides of uncertainty that lay ahead. As the Titanic departed Southampton, the vessel cut through the waves, its grand magnificence almost surreal. Each second-class passenger, with their hopes and dreams, shared a bond that transcended the class divisions looming over them like the Atlantic mist. The ship was their temporary home, a floating village of aspirations. Yet, beneath the surface, Clara felt the sharp sting of prejudice. A chance encounter with a first-class passenger, a woman draped in silks and diamonds, left Clara feeling small and diminished, stirring dark thoughts about who she was in a world so full of ambition and privilege. "She's just another girl," Clara heard someone whisper about her. The words cut through the music of the ship's band and laughter in the dining hall. Yet, stubborn as she was, Clara refused to let those feelings of inferiority sink her. She poured herself into the company of her fellow travelers, organizing gatherings to share stories, laughter, and even dreams. Together they explored the ship, acknowledging each other's struggles, knitting their own community within the gilded walls that seemed designed to keep them apart. But on that fateful night, as the stars twinkled above, the Titanic collided with an iceberg, an unexpected vicissitude of fate that transformed the voyage into horror. Out of nowhere, panic erupted. The ship shuddered, and the once unbreakable bond they formed now faced a test that demanded unspeakable courage. Clara's heart raced, recognizing the gravity of the moment. She stood at a precipice: leave her friends behind for her own survival or stand firm against the chaos to protect those who had become family. In those moments of terror, the whispers of class and society faded into the shadows. Clara felt an urgency within her, a drive to act, to inspire her fellow passengers to embrace dignity over despair. "We're not just numbers, we are human beings," she cried into the frenzied night, echoing the very essence of American resilience. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the cold Atlantic waters rose, Clara faced a crucial choice. Would she summon every ounce of courage to unite her friends in their final moments? With the lifeboats filling rapidly, the air thick with cries for help, she felt time stretching like a taut string. Could love and loyalty defy the icy grip of fate? Could they redefine their stories, or would despair seal their fates? Clara's heart thundered in her chest, each beat as loud as the despair surrounding them. The icy Atlantic loomed, and Clara prepared to take a leap, her resolve crystallizing against the crushing weight of uncertainty. Clara took a step forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She wasn't alone. She could see faces all around her, twisted in fear but also flickering with determination. The sounds of chaos grew louder, drowning out the faint strains of the band that had played just moments before. People were pushing, shouting, trying to make sense of the madness around them. "Everyone, please. We must stay together," Clara shouted, her voice strong despite the turmoil. She reached for the hands of the war veteran, whose expression mirrored her own, a mix of fear and resolve. We can't let panic divide us. We have to help each other. The veteran nodded, his grip steadying Clara as he rallied the few passengers nearby. There was a glimmer of recognition in their eyes and understanding that, in this moment, they weren't just individuals fighting for survival. They were a collective, a family forged in hardship and bound by shared hope. As the water continued to rise, Clara's mind raced. She scanned the deck for the lifeboats, feeling a pull towards them, an instinctive urge to survive. But the thought of leaving her newfound friends behind gripped her heart. She couldn't abandon them. Not now. Over here. A voice called, breaking through the noise. A group was gathered by a lifeboat, the crew frantically trying to usher people into the small vessels. The sight of the lifeboat seemed a lifeline, but Clara noticed the disparity in how the passengers were being treated. There was an urgency for first-class passengers, while the second-class families were shoved aside, their pleas ignored. No. Clara cried out, instinct taking over. She darted forward, forcing her way through the throngs of people. They deserved to be saved too. This isn't right. Some of her fellow second-class passengers joined her. Together, they formed a barricade, pushing back against the crew who seemed less interested in their lives. We matter. We are worthy. Clara shouted, her heart racing with righteous anger. The crew hesitated, uncertainty flickering across their faces as they saw the defiance blossoming among the second-class passengers. The widowed father, clutching his children tightly, stepped forward. We're not numbers. We have lives to live. His voice rang with painful conviction, and Clara felt the powerful swell of support filling the space around her. Just as it seemed their cries might break through the din, a loud call rang out, shattering the moment. Women and children first. A crew member barked, but it felt as if they were drowning in the swirling waters of injustice. Clara exchanged glances with the war veteran, unsure of their next move. Time was a fickle friend, and the boats were still filling. As the ocean's icy fingers reached even higher, Clara realized their moment of truth was approaching fast. If they didn't act now, desperation would define their ending. With each moment, she felt an unyielding bond growing between them. Fear was no longer just a personal battle, it was a shared burden, and within it lay a profound strength. Let us take control, Clara urged, her voice steady and fierce. We can find a way, together. A chorus of affirmations echoed around her, a tide of shared resolve washing over the group. As they steeled themselves for what lay ahead, the ship groaned beneath them, a reminder of the fragile reality they inhabited. But Clara felt a flicker of hope igniting as she gripped the hands of her fellow passengers tighter. In this fight for their lives, they would not be silenced. What awaited them at the boats, their chance at survival or the continuation of their collective fight, loomed ahead like the dark waters below. But Clara could feel one thing clearly: destiny was calling, and together, they would answer. A sudden crash echoed through the air, and Clara's heart sank once more. What was that? Momentarily forgetting their resolve, panic threatened to seep back in as fear clawed at their hearts. In the next heartbeat, she would discover just how far they were willing to go to risk it all for the sake of love and loyalty. Would they stand together, ready to face the unimaginable? As the Titanic echoed a creaking finality, the real test of their humanity was just beginning. Clara's breath hitched as the noise around them surged with a new intensity. The ship groaned like a wounded beast, the sound reverberating through the wooden deck. Each crash of water against the hull sent shivers down her spine, a haunting reminder of their dire circumstances. She could see others in the crowd, faces pale with fear, but there was also something else, an ember of defiance kindling in their eyes. Stay together. She urged again, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. In this moment, every second felt like an eternity. Adrenaline surged through her, igniting an urgency that propelled her forward. The momentary pause in action revealed the reality of the situation. Chaos ruled, but Clara refused to let it defeat them. They had to think clearly. Without looking back at the veteran, she felt his strong presence beside her like an anchor in the storm. Rushing toward the lifeboat area, Clara could see the crew's desperate attempts to restore order. They were getting overwhelmed by the rising tide of passengers clamoring for safety. But it was more than just a chaotic push to save themselves, it morphed into a desperate plea for dignity. "Over here." The voice of the widowed father rose over the din. He had made it closer to the lifeboats, his children clinging to him, wide-eyed and frightened. Clara's heart ached at the sight. They were a family, just like hers, fighting for survival, dreaming of tomorrow. She urged her group forward, shouting for everyone to follow her lead. "This way. They can't ignore us if we stand as one." Fear transformed into determination, and they surged closer, a human wave motivated by the pull of necessity. The crew members' faces revealed their confusion and frustration. "Women and children first." One shouted again, but that felt like an empty mantra at this point. Clara could feel the anger boiling beneath her skin. Why did it have to be one over the other? Everyone deserved a chance. As more passengers pushed forward, Clara noticed a young woman, frail but determined, trying to navigate through the throng. She was surrounded by chaos, but when Clara caught her gaze, something sparked a fleeting moment of solidarity. Clara reached her hand out. "Come on. You're not alone," she called, pulling the woman toward her. So many lives were at stake, and in this turmoil, Clara saw the power of human connection growing. They formed chains of hands, faces brightening with courage as they clutched at one another, hearts pounding in unison. Then another loud crash shook the Titanic. The sensation fluttered through everyone, heightening their fight-or-flight instincts. With the arrival of that sound, Clara realized they were running out of time. The lifeboat should be their salvation, not an elitist privilege. She pushed forward, urgency transforming into raw energy. "Help us!" she shouted to a nearby crew member, breathless but unwavering. "Help us all!" A beat of disbelief crossed his face as he looked between the frantic crowd and sensibilities of protocol, but Clara felt a shift the moment where desperation would become their voice. The lifeboat was half filled, a few second-class passengers struggling to get inside. The father, his children now crying, strained against the crew holding people back. Clara's heart ached for them. They weren't just names or numbers. They were families, lives that mattered. "Everyone. We can't let them push us aside. We're leaving together." Her voice rang out, firm and unwavering. With that rallying cry, her small group surged toward the lifeboats, hands reached out imploringly to crew members who hesitated. But would their bravery be enough to break through the walls of class and influence? Only time could tell how far they were willing to go. Just then, a sudden surge of people came from behind, pushing Clara dangerously close to the edge of the lifeboat. As she teetered, the icy waters beckoning her dangerously close, she gripped the hands of her fellow passengers tightly, a mix of fear and fierce resolve washing over her. Could they really fight against an invisible force determined to keep them apart? Clara dared to hope that they could. Yet, as the ship shook violently, the reality loomed darkly. This was just the beginning of their struggle, and choices would need to be made swift and heart-wrenching. The line between survival and sacrifice was drawing close. What they didn't know was that fate had more twists in store, and the bonds they had forged might just be their only lifeline. Would they rise as one, or would the dark waters swallow them whole? Time was running out, and every heartbeat echoed with urgency. The tide of desperation mixed with hope thrummed through the crowd as Clara held onto the hands around her. Each person contributing to a human chain of solidarity. The key to survival seemed to lie not just in the strength of individuals, but in the power of their unity. Yet, doubt gnawed at her. Could they make it against the currents of panic that churned around them? Stay calm. Stay together. A voice of authority sliced through the chaos, but it was met with angry shouts and cries. The ship's crew was scrambling. Clara saw one man struggle to maintain control. He was overwhelmed, teetering at the edge of reason. Just like her, he was wrestling with a storm greater than himself. The lifeboat loomed close now, its side slick from the grasping hands trying to scale it. Clara could make out the sight of frightened faces peering over the edge. One moment it was just a vessel of escape, and the next, it had transformed into a beacon of vulnerability, urging them all forward but imposing an unavoidable weight of expectation. "What's the hold-up?" someone shouted, another face marred by confusion and fear. Clara's heart raced even faster as she felt the strong currents of frustration pressing in on them all. Everyone wanted to survive. Everyone needed a way out. How could they prioritize? Clara's thoughts swirled like the icy waters beneath them, but clarity struck, she needed to act. Pushing closer, she felt the clenching grasp of the veteran's hand beside her, his presence grounding her. There was purpose in the gaze he fixed on her, an understanding that overflowed in the chaos. Together, they would not merely wait for rescuers to claim them. "Let us make a stand," Clara said, her voice trembling but releasing a surge of confidence. "We're not just trying to escape, we're fighting for our places, for every one of us." She could see the spark of determination ignite in the eyes of those around her. They were stretching their limbs for a more united cause, clenching onto each other, an unbreakable bond forged in adversity. Her heart hammered loudly with the weight of responsibility. She greeted the widowed father with a fierce look, hoping to convey strength. "We'll get you and your children out of here. Stay close." He nodded, determination reflecting fiercely through his anguish. The next wave of screaming surged as an order was barked to control the crowd. "Women and children only." But Clara couldn't accept the validity of the command, it made no sense. People were people, and they all deserved a chance. She glanced around, her gaze met the young woman's again, eyes wide with fear but a flicker of hope dancing within them. "Take my hand," Clara urged, pulling her closer into the chain. The young woman grasped on tight, and for a moment, their fears intermingled, creating a strong resolve that traveled from one heart to another. "Now!" Clara shouted, louder this time. "With me!" She began to press forward, the group behind her merging into a collective push as they broke through the solidifying barrier between them and the lifeboats. The hand of a crew member shot out, trying to maintain order. "Stop! You can't do this!" But Clara refused to be deterred. She pushed through, urging everyone along with a fierce pulse of courage that echoed through her. "We can do this. We'll make it." But even as they fought against the wave of uncertainty, another crash echoed from deep within the ship, a thunderous scream growing louder and closer. Clara felt her bones rattle. Instinct told her to look back, to see how much time they truly had left. Would their unity be enough? Or were they merely staving off the inevitable? The panic surged again, louder this time, and everyone faltered momentarily, glancing back at the ship's straining hull. Clara squeezed the young woman's hand tighter, clinging to the power of connection amidst desolation. Then the screams reached a fevered pitch, drawing their attention once more. A terrifying sight unfolded as a mass of humanity rushed towards the lifeboats, desperation clawing at every throat. Clara's heart sank as she realized their window was closing. Would they grasp fate by the throat and fight for survival, or would the crushing waves of despair pull them back into darkness? As the ship shuddered beneath their feet again, Clara drew in a breath thick with uncertainty. Time was fading, and each moment might become their last. What would happen next as the world around them threatened to collapse? Clara's mind raced as she prepared to face the choices ahead. They had to move quickly, or all would be lost. The surge forward felt like a tidal wave against the crumbling ship, but Clara remained resolute. She stole glances over her shoulder, noting the frantic faces behind her, fear etched in stark lines, determination battling against despair. Collectively, they surged towards the lifeboats, their collective heartbeat echoing the desperate need for survival. "Hold on tight!" she yelled, feeling the weight of each soul intertwined with her own. The young woman pressed closer, her features pale but fiercely resolved, and for a fleeting moment, Clara thought they might break through this chaos together. But just then, a loud clang rang out, a metallic sound that chilled Clara to her core. The hull of the ship groaned like a beast in pain, sending vibrations through the very air they breathed. Time felt suspended, yet every passing second pushed them closer to the edge. As if sensing her hesitation, the veteran's hand gripped hers tighter, grounding her, reminding her of their shared resolve. "Don't stop," he urged, his voice a steady anchor amidst the growing storm of panic. Their small chain of hope pressed on, pushing through the crowd, trying to stave off the overwhelming urge to retreat into the shadows of desperation. But as they reached the lifeboats, Clara's heart sank further. Crew members fought to keep order among the chaos, issuing commands that only fueled the dread swelling around them. Clara could see the lifeboat's captain on his knees, urgently gesturing for more people to come forward, yet the swarming mass was like a trapped animal, wild, disoriented, and desperate. "We can't let fear take over," Clara shouted, rallying her fellow survivors, her voice straining against the thundering roars of fear. "We have to trust each other, lean on one another. We can do this." With every word, she saw the spark reignite in the frightened faces surrounding her. Suddenly, a piercing scream pierced through the air, pulling Clara's gaze towards the ship's stern. A wall of water surged up, crashing against the hull, forcing people to recoil. Fear spread like wildfire, and the air thickened with desperation as another command was hollered out, "Get back! Back away!" But the command only deepened their resolve. Clara felt that unity swelling, the palpable bond weaving through the crowd as they swarmed closer to the lifeboats. With renewed purpose, Clara extended her hand, urging those around her to join her. "Together!" she cried out. The veteran's voice broke through the swell of panic. "Everyone, take each other's hands. Don't let go. We're stronger together." Clara grabbed the hands of the nearest two people, a terrified mother clutching her baby and the wide-eyed girl beside her. Clara looked into their eyes, sensing their fears mingling with the hope she was trying to inspire. Was it enough? As they closed in on the lifeboat's edge, another jolt coursed through the ship. She could feel the deck noticeably tilting, and the terrified chanting grew louder, a tide of panic that threatened to crush them all. Clara's heart raced as she caught sight of more lifeboats recently released, swinging dangerously above them. A choice emerged in her mind, an instant decision needing no deliberation. "We can't let this moment pass. We hold on to each other until we breathe again. On 3. She felt the weight of the moment as she began to count, struggling to ignore the chaos and fear around her. 1, 2, 3. Jump! In unison, they leapt into the unknown. As the world shifted in an unnatural grasp, Clara's hands slipped from everything she had anchored to. She felt the wild pull of gravity and the chilling embrace of the sea as she hit the water. The icy shock nearly knocked her breath away. But even as she struggled to find solid ground beneath the wave's tumult, she locked her eyes on the light beckoning from above, the promise of life, survival, and, perhaps, hope. Could they all make it? As Clara fought against the sea, she was terrified of what awaited them in that dark abyss. How many would break free, and at what cost? Clara blinked as the water closed over her head, darkness enveloping her, cocooning her in silence for a split second. Instinct kicked in, and she kicked her legs desperately, searching for air. The ocean thrashed around her, a furious entity bent on taking her down. Moments stretched like hours as she flailed, her lungs screaming for breath, her mind racing through flashes of those she'd left behind, friends, family, the brave faces of those who had jumped with her. Just when she thought her strength would give out, her fingers brushed against the rough surface of something solid. A piece of debris, maybe. Thinking fast, she grabbed hold and pulled herself upward. The surface broke, splashing cold salt water across her face as she gasped for air. Instinctively, she turned in circles, her heart pounding as chaos reigned around her. Distant screams faded in and out, merging with the sounds of the ocean's fury. She fought to focus, squinting at the flotsam scattered across the dark waves, fear clawing at her. "Clara!" A voice pierced through the cacophony, and her heart skipped a beat. It was the veteran. She spotted him, treading water several feet away, his eyes wide with panic and determination. "Over here." He waved, struggling to keep afloat. She felt a surge of relief and renewed purpose. She began to swim, arms thrashing through the water, each stroke pulling her closer to him. As the waves crashed around them, Clara realized they weren't alone. A group of survivors was gathering in the same area. She could see familiar faces: the terrified mother with her baby, the wide-eyed girl, now clinging to another piece of wreckage. "Stay together!" Clara yelled, her voice barely rising above the roar of the sea. "We have to stick together." The currents tossed them like ragdolls, but they fought against the tide. Hands reached out, grasping one another, uniting against the overwhelming force of nature. Clara felt the warmth of human connection seep through the icy water, igniting a flicker of hope. The veteran broke through the surface beside her, his breath ragged. "We need to get to something solid," he urged, scanning the horizon for any sign of safety. "Keep pushing. Don't lose your strength." As Clara nodded, fatigue began to gnaw at her limbs. She could see the ship still ablaze in the distance, its once mighty structure now a ruin against the night sky. It was a haunting image, a ghost ship of memories that would never be the same again. "Clara." The wide-eyed girl was close now, gripping a piece of wreckage as the waves threatened to drag her under. Clara reached her just as she was about to slip away. "I'm here. Grab on." With all her might, Clara pulled the girl up, their eyes locking in a moment that transcended words. The mother and the baby were little further, their desperate faces mirroring the determination that flickered within Clara. Together, they struggled towards the transient safety of a nearby lifeboat that had floated within reaching distance. But as they neared it, a new wave rolled violently, and Clara's heart sank as a collective gasp erupted from the group. The lifeboat was full, barely hanging on in the chaos. Crew members scrambled to manage the ruins as laughter and screams mingled with fear. "We can't give up," Clara shouted, rallying her small group. "We need to reach it. One last push." They rallied, fingers gripping onto each other, unbreakable bonds forged in the surf. But the question loomed heavy above them like the moon hanging low: could they surmount the tides, defy fate, and grasp the slim chance of survival? As they swam closer, Clara caught sight of a shadow beneath the surface. The ocean held its secrets, but what would it reveal next? The water lashed at Clara's face as she battled to reach the lifeboat. Each pull of her arms felt heavier, each kick a battle against the tide. The shadows beneath the waves seemed to whisper warnings, fueling her desperation. "Clara." The veteran's voice broke through her fog of fear. He was still fighting, still pushing forward. "Focus on the people around you." She forced herself to look at the others. The wide-eyed girl clung to the wreckage, her gaze a mixture of fear and trust. The mother held her baby close, the little one's wide eyes scanning the chaos. Clara met their frightened stares and found a spark of determination igniting within her. "Hold on tight." Clara rallied. "We're almost there." With renewed strength, she resumed swimming, glancing back to see the group behind her moving as one, a small army of souls tied together by sheer will. They were fragile in a world built of fury, but together, they could confront the storm. As they approached the lifeboat, the chaos within it grew more chaotic. The crew shouted orders, panic threading through their voices. Crew members yanked on ropes and shouted at one another, while faces, it seemed like 100 faces, turned toward Clara and her group. "Help us!" someone called out, hands reaching over the edge. Clara felt warmth flood her heart at their plea. They had not been forgotten. But no sooner had hope flickered in her chest than a massive wave crashed into them, sending Clara tumbling under the churning waters once more. She gasped for breath as the ocean pulled her deeper, dread sinking like a stone in her gut. Just as her lungs burned with the need for air, a hand grabbed her wrist. The veteran. He yanked her close, his fiercely determined eyes cutting through the darkness. "Stay with me," he yelled, each word a flame of strength igniting her spirit. They broke the surface together, spluttering and gasping. The lifeboat was only a few feet away, the crew's cries pushing them onward. Clara felt as if the world were holding its breath, watching them as they swam toward salvation. "Let us go!" she shouted, both to the veteran and to the group, rallying them one last time. "We can't stop. Not now." The current raged, yet they surged on, their fears momentarily suspended by the adrenaline coursing through their veins. With one final kick, they reached the lifeboat, hands grasping widely. "Pull us up!" Clara screamed, connecting with the lifeboat's crew, her voice slicing through the chaos. And then it happened. A hand reached over the edge. Strong. Determined. It locked around Clara's forearm and pulled her up, briefly lifting her out of the sea. In that instant, she tasted freedom air coursing into her starving lungs, the promise of survival nearly tangible. But relief turned to horror as she looked back. The others were still fighting, a wave crashing between them and the lifeboat, heightening their struggle against the relentless ocean. Clara's heart raced, a tempest of emotions swirling inside. Would they all make it? With a sudden resolve, Clara turned back to the vessel. "We need to help them." She shouted to the crew, but it felt like shouting into the void. "Clara!" The veteran, grabbing her shoulder, his eyes fierce. "If we go back now then we risk losing everything. They need us." She replied, desperation clawing at her. The clock was ticking, a decision had to be made. Would they push forward for their lives or turn back to save their fragile hope? Clara's gaze fell upon the faces of those still battling the waves. They wouldn't abandon each other, not when they had come this far. But was that wisdom or folly? Only the ocean knew. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. She felt the weight of the decision crushing down, like the water pressing all around them. The lifeboat was a symbol of safety, but it was also a fortress that would leave others behind. "Clara, listen to me," the veteran said, his voice unwavering, even as chaos spooled out around them. "If we jump back in, we may endanger everyone who is here. But if we don't, they could drown." She shot back, looking into his daring eyes. "We can't just stand by and watch them struggle. They're counting on us." Her voice rose above the swell of panic in the air. Soldiers in battle didn't leave one another behind, she had learned that long ago. "Clara." There was something softer in his tone now, almost pleading. "You have to promise that you'll." The wave of voices surged again, crashing over him with a ravenous roar. "Help. Please." Her eyes darted back to the water. The little girl was still clinging to the wreck. The mother's grip tightened around the baby, who was crying now. It was a heartbreaking sound, filling the very air with anguish. Before she thought, Clara took a deep, shaky breath and yanked her arm free. "I'm going," she shouted, the words falling from her lips like stones into the surf. The veteran's gaze widened in alarm, but she had already turned away. Her heart came alive with purpose. She launched herself back into the tumultuous water. The cold seemed to wrap around her, trying to drag her back into the depths, but the cries tugged at her spirit. Clara fought through the waves, her limbs moving with fierce determination. Every stroke was a reminder of her promise not just to herself, but to those struggling behind her. "Clara, stop!" the veteran yelled, his voice now distant. She was focused on finding the girl, the mother, the baby. She could hear them, the cries cutting through the chaos. Reaching the wreckage, she gasped. "Hold on!" she called, swimming closer to the girl. I'm here." The girl's eyes filled with fear, but also trust. Clara felt it light up a spark of courage within her. She could see the mother's face, painted with panic as she struggled to keep her child afloat. Clara grasped the girl's hand, pulling her closer, screaming encouragement into the storm. "Grab my arm. We'll go together." The girl let go of the wreck, reaching for Clara. With a fierce tug, she brought her aboard, their bodies crashing together in a desperate hug. "You're safe now," Clara whispered, but she hardly felt it herself. The lifeboat seemed so far away. Behind her, the waves lashed against the mother, now struggling to keep hold of her watery world. "Help her." The girl's voice trembled, her small body shivering against Clara's warmth. With no time to think, Clara kicked back toward the mother, extending her hand once more. She felt the ocean beneath her feet, relentless and hungry. The moment stretched painfully, and she could see the fear in the mother's eyes, a clash of hope and dread that struck Clara like a spear. "Take my hand. Just for a second, I'll pull you up," she shouted, holding tight to the belief that they could do this together. The mother hesitated, as if weighing her options against the chaos that threatened to swallow them whole. But the child's fear was infectious, electrifying the air. Clara could feel her heart racing, a pulse of urgent bravery. Finally, the mother reached out, fingers trembling. But as Clara dove forward, a powerful wave reared up, crashing down upon them with swift fury, twisting everything back into chaos. In that swirling moment, Clara wondered, would they all make it? Or would abrupt fate intervene once more? As the water engulfed them, she reached for a hand, but was it too late? Clara's fingertips grazed the mother's hand, but the force of the wave tore them apart. She felt like a kite in a storm, flapping helplessly as the ocean roared around her. Panic fluttered in her chest as she surfaced for air, gasping, squinting through the salty spray. "Clara! Come back!" The veteran's voice echoed above the tumult. The little girl clung to Clara's arm, eyes wide with terror. "I can't let go," she cried, her small body quaking. "Neither can I." Clara reassured her, driving her legs in a frantic kick against the cold water, seeking the surface, seeking hope in this chaos. Her heart thumped wildly, fueled by adrenaline and fear. A glimmer of white caught her eye, the lifeboat bobbing just out of reach, a promise unfulfilled. She strained toward it, the taste of salt stinging her lips. "We have to go back for your mom," she shouted over the din, but the girl shook her head, her wet hair an unkempt halo. "No. She'll drown." An unquenchable fire flared inside Clara, igniting her will to fight. "I won't let that happen," she declared, pulling the girl closer. Deep down, she knew they needed to help the mother, but doubt crept in, heavy like the water surrounding them. With a fierce determination, she turned back toward the wreckage, casting her fears aside. "Stay with me. We can do this." Clara's plea cut through the storm, a tether between her and the girl's fragile hope. The mother was still visible, a flurry of limbs struggling against nature's force. Clara's heart broke at the sight, every frantic movement echoing her own desperate struggle. She glanced back at the little girl, their eyes locking, forming a band of unspoken agreement together. They were strong. Clara plunged beneath the surface, bubbles swirling around her like a tempest, her lungs screaming for breath. She pushed through the darkness, reaching out again, feeling her fingers brush against the mother. Hope flared as she swam back up, dragging the woman towards the light. "No. You're too weak." The mother gasped, panic threatening to drown them both. "Just a little more. Trust me," Clara urged, using every ounce of strength to pull them both upward, the weight of the world on her shoulders. The surface was close now, she could almost taste freedom when another wave crashed down, sending them spiraling into a whirlpool of despair. They resurfaced, breathless and gasping, each second stretching unbearably. "Hold on to me," Clara shouted, wrapping one arm around the mother and another around the little girl, forming a fragile life raft. Tremors shot through her as she felt the fear seeping into her bones. There was no guarantee they'd reach the lifeboat. But ahead, shadows jostled, and voices shouted. Safety was within reach, solid and real. With a low roar in her heart, Clara began swimming again, drawing from the shared strength of the three of them. "We're almost there. Just a little longer." But dread gnawed at the edges of her determination. If she faltered now, if the waves turned against them again. Clara! The veteran called, his arm outstretched from the lifeboat, desperation flickering in his eyes. Just hold on. Clara cried out, feeling energy course through her veins, a fire igniting in her soul. They shot towards the lifeboat, each stroke carrying them closer, her heart thundering with the rhythm of survival. But just as they neared, she noticed something, a dark shadow beneath the swell, rising ominously, threatening to consume all their hopes. Would they make it? Or had fate already decided their course? Clara's lungs screamed for air as she fought against the surge of panic, every ounce of strength poured into her desperate strokes. With the mother and child clinging tightly, they surged toward the lifeboat, the warmth of hope battling the cold grip of the ocean. The cries of the crew echoed, urging them closer, yet the shadows loomed, threatening to swallow them whole. Just when it felt like fate would snatch them away, Clara's fingers grazed the edge of the lifeboat. Grab on! The veteran shouted, his hand reaching down. With a final push, she pulled them closer, the cops of adrenaline charging through her as she felt the sturdy grip of the lifeboat's crew. Help her! Clara called, her voice cutting through the chaos. The crew members leaned over, hands outstretched, pulling the little girl up first. Safe! Now the mother! Clara cried out, panic surging again as she felt the weight of the ocean pressing down around them. The mother reached out, hands shaking as she was hoisted upwards, the lifeboat creaking beneath their added weight. It felt surreal, the glow of the lifeboat engulfed in relief and terror mixed all at once. They were rescued, but Clara couldn't shake the fear that more waited below the waves. As they pulled the last of them aboard, Clara's heart swelled with emotional exhaustion. They had made it. Tears mixed with the salt water on her cheeks as she turned, looking into the eyes of the veteran, their silent bond cementing resoluteness in that moment. But in the din of survival, Clara felt the energy shift. People were shouting, faces in distress. Glancing around, Clara saw that the chaos was not over. The lifeboats were filled, but the cries continued as others struggled in the water. Clara, we have to go. The veteran urged, pulling her back gently, still holding on to hope, but the sounds of suffering gnawed at her heart. I can't just leave. Clara shook her head adamantly. Their spirits needed her now, as they had done before. Listen. He implored, panic dawning in his eyes. We won't be able to save anyone else if we go back in. We need to let them rescue those still struggling, then we can help when it's safe. Clara's pulse raced. He was right. The lifeboat could only hold so many. If they didn't regroup, they'd all be lost at sea. But her heart broke at the thought of leaving others behind. What can we do? She asked, her voice trembling. Help from here, the veteran said, gathering more crew members and rallying the others in the lifeboat. We can throw ropes, make sure anyone who is close enough can grab on. We can keep them calm. Determined, Clara took a deep breath, pushing aside self-doubt. All right. She said, firming her voice. Turning back to see the wide-eyed faces still lost out in the waves, her heart twisted with resolve. They weren't done yet. Together with the crew, they tossed out ropes, their hearts soaring with every person who managed to grab hold. One by one, they pulled more individuals from the water. Clara's spirit ignited. This was teamwork. Each face emerging from the chaos reminded her of the bond they had forged. They had survived together and now they could help others too. Finally, as dawn crept overhead, sunlight breaking through the horizon, Clara found herself surrounded by those they had saved. Exhausted, yet unified, they huddled in a group, sharing tears, embraces, and laughter, wiping away remnants of despair. It felt almost surreal, like the morning light had brought an unyielding spark of hope. In that moment, Clara turned and searched for the veteran, who was standing quietly to one side, a smile on his face. He was watching her with admiration, understanding the profound transformation that had taken root within her spirit. "We did it," she whispered, tears trailing joyfully down her face. "We didn't just survive, we lived." He nodded, and Clara felt gratitude wash over her, the kind that gets woven into the very fabric of life through shared experiences, resilience, and the unbreakable ties of humanity. As they drifted away from the ruins of the Titanic, Clara looked out. Across the water, now glimmering under the rising sun. She could see pieces of wreckage around them, remnants of dreams submerged in dark waters. But she also saw hope in thousands of other souls gathered together, not merely passengers, but a family bonded through shared battles and triumphs. Clara smiled wide, her heart full. She was no longer just the girl from Nebraska. She was a survivor. "Together, we can overcome anything," she declared, her voice firm. "Let us live our stories out loud, for those who couldn't." And with that, the group's collective strength rekindled once more, destined to find their new life not just as individuals but as a family risen from the depths of tragedy. This is your moment. You need to subscribe now to continue following these incredible life-changing stories. Leave a like right this second to help fuel the algorithm and share this message with the world. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about Clara and her journey. Let's keep the discussion going. Don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can inspire change.